Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. It is truly a beautiful sight to see you out here this day. In March of 2006, I had one of the greatest honors ever bestowed upon me. I had the privilege to preach from the pulpit of the Brown Chapel AME Church in Selma, Alabama. That church would serve as a headquarters for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in 1965. That church from which hundreds first marched to the Edmund Pettus Bridge and were beaten mercilessly by state troopers upon that bridge and returned to that church after that event. And as I stood to preach there that Sunday, there were individuals in the congregation who participated on that bloody Sunday. As I preached that day, I chose a text that spoke of the children of Israel who had to find relief from bondage and oppression in Egypt. And I spoke of how God breathed out a bridge for them through the Red Sea that they might cross over on dry land. But the reality was, before they could enter into their promise, they were faced with yet another barrier. They needed another opportunity. They needed another bridge by which they could cross into the promised land. And I entitled the name of that message, One More Bridge to Cross. And as we are gathered here this day, 50 years after Bloody Sunday, and as there are commemorations happening not only in our city, but in fact across this nation commemorating this day, it is very clear that we still have one more bridge to cross in order to achieve equality and justice for all humankind. We're mindful that we have one more bridge to cross when we know that this state, the state of Texas, is criticized across the world as one of the leaders in human rights violations as relates to capital punishment. We know that we have one more bridge to cross. We know we have one more bridge to cross when the State Board of Education had decided no longer to speak of the transatlantic slave trade, but now to speak of the triangular trade route in order to hide this nation's racist history. We know we have one more bridge to cross. We know we have one more bridge to cross when our fair city boasts more billionaires than any city in America. However, the majority of our young people in DISD are impoverished, and the majority of their communities are food deserts. We know we have one more bridge to cross. We know we have one more bridge to cross where our prisons move towards profit and exchange bodies for budgets. We know we have one more bridge to cross. All right. We know we have one more bridge to cross. And the Supreme Court is eroding the rights secured for us in blood. It's oppressing our voting like never before. We have together one more bridge to cross. But the question for today is, how shall we cross that bridge? How will we move forward into a better day? How can we ensure that we live in a day where justice flows like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream? I suggest to you today that we cross that bridge the same way the children of Israel crossed the bridge into the promised land. We crossed that bridge the same way Dr. King and John Lewis and Amelia Boynton Robinson crossed the bridge into the next season and into their promise. We crossed that bridge together. For we're reminded that when the children of Israel crossed the Jordan River to enter into the promised land, the priest stood in the middle of the river and water rolled up on one side. And they stayed there in the middle of the river until everybody had the opportunity to cross over to the promised land. So our work is not done and shall not be done until every young person has the opportunity for a quality education. We will get off the bridge and we will not vacate the river until all young people have an opportunity to grow up and live with dignity. We will not give up. We will not stop, and we will not stop moving forward until we secure justice for all humankind. We'll live together. We'll march together. We'll stand together. If we have to, we'll die in together. So one day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. We've got one more bridge to cross. We'll cross it together.